Hey guys, Jake Carlson here, host of the Modern Leadership Podcast. Are you ready to focus on amplifying your leadership superpowers? Let's go! Hello, my friends and fellow elite achievers. Welcome to another exciting episode of Modern Leadership. It is so great to be with you again this week. Today, I want to talk about consulting. According to Webster, consulting is the business of giving expert advice to other professionals. Now, your business may not explicitly be giving expert advice like a coach would or a consultant does, but every business requires you to share your expertise. It is a vital part of any business success. And because of that, I have invited a new friend to Modern Leadership, Michael Zipursky, to the show. Michael is an author, an entrepreneur, and the CEO of ConsultingSuccess.com. He has consulted for organizations throughout North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, the Middle East. There's almost nowhere he hasn't been, and in over 30 industries, including working with powerhouses such as Panasonic, Dow Jones, Financial Times, and Royal Bank. In addition to all of that, he is the author of 5 books on consulting and marketing, including his most recent bestseller, The Elite Consulting Mind, 16 Proven Mindsets to Attract More Clients, Increase Your Income, and Achieve Meaningful Success. Michael, it is so great to have you with us. How are you today?
I'm terrific, Jake, and very happy to be with you as well.
My goodness, it's great to have you on the show. As I go through that bio and that intro, and I just look at all the places that you've been, all the experiences that you've had, I think that you have a lot of knowledge to bring to us. And with that being said, before we jump into your books and your work, is there anything personal that we missed by way of hobbies or family life?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big question, and there's a lot of places that we could go with that. One thing maybe that you didn't mention there, just fun fact is that I built a business in Japan and spent about 6 years doing that over there. So that's kind of what led to working with companies like Panasonic and Dow Jones Japan and Financial Times. But aside from that, I spent a lot of time with my family. Last year alone, we were out of the country with my wife and daughter for about 5 months, traveling throughout Europe and Japan and other places. So certainly, love to spend time with family.
Oh, that's great. And maybe after we shut off the recording and stop talking some of this consulting work, we can talk about places that you traveled. Maybe we crossed paths. Last year, we spent 6 months in Asia or in Europe ourselves. But anyway, let's talk about this book that you wrote. You've written 5 books, but the most recent one really piqued my interest because it's something I do on a day in and day out basis. That is consulting or coaching or working with individuals. And what led to the writing of this book and kind of what's the background behind it?
Yeah, so I've been building successful consulting businesses now for 18 years, and I've worked with a lot of consultants, helping them to grow their businesses. And really what I've observed over that period of time is that there are, several different principles or specific roadblocks or sticking points that people encounter. And my real, observation and belief, Jake, is that it's not the strategy or the lack of knowledge or tactics that holds people back from achieving success. It's really their mindset. And so the book, The Elite Consulting Mind, is all about the most common mindset blocks and challenges that I've personally faced in my kind of career growing consulting businesses and being a consultant, as well as those of all the the hundreds and thousands of those that we've trained personally or in our programs. And I've just put that together in terms of stories, principles, ideas, and suggestions on how to overcome those situations.
So as you've been doing this for a number of years, have you seen an increase in the popularity or a big wave towards moving towards consulting out there amongst corporate America?
Without a doubt, definitely.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think more and more people are, number one, it's easier to start a business today than it ever has been before, which also means that it's an interesting dynamic because you have a lot of people who are calling themselves consultants or who are doing their own thing, but yet aren't actually prepared to do that. But, number one, it's easier, again, than it's ever been before. And I also think that, kind of going back to the roots of, mankind and hundreds of years ago, like a lot of people were in business. It's only in the last, while or kind of last few hundred years where people have been a part of these larger organizations, recognizing that more and more people want to kind of have the freedom and flexibility. They want to realize their own potential. I just see that consulting has continued to grow, and even entrepreneurship and small business has as well.
Have you seen any changes in the reception of consulting? For example, a more likelihood that people will reach out and hire a consultant or bring somebody on in recent years?
Yeah, definitely. And, if you kind of go back many years, consulting was, in some ways kind of considered for the privileged or for larger, more established organizations. And they would kind of go just to the big established consulting firms. But as consulting and working with experts has become much more common, now businesses of all sizes, whether even nonprofit, government, or private businesses, whether they're startups or Fortune 500, they're all using the services of experts and consultants. And the real reason for that is because they have problems where they're looking for a specialist, right? Their organizations are typically filled with generalists, but when they have a specific problem or a unique situation where they need expertise, they need a level of specialization they don't have in-house, then they need to go outside to find someone to help them with that.
And so historically, it seemed like, a company would bring on people and they would hope that they were generalists. They would hope that they could wear many hats within the organization and that, oh, good old Bob, he can do everything. Go ask him. But now that our society has become more connected, where we can reach out more often, it's easier to find people who are experts. It seems like we're moving, especially in corporate America, to a more specialization where, this individual will be an expert in one thing. And when we need that expertise, that's who we go and see. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
100%. And I'd say it's actually been that way for quite some time. The only point of distinction that I might add there is that it depends on the type of organization. Smaller organizations or in some roles, even larger organizations, they still want generalists. They still want people that can come in and they can then train on their methodology or their approach. But if you look at a lot of organizations, especially those that are more established and who are hiring, they are looking for specialist roles, and they're very clear in their job descriptions for that.
Well, wonderful. I want to jump into this book because I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of consulting. And so these chapters really jumped out to me, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about it. One of the things I do often is this mindset chat, this mindset communication. But I often see that the clients that are hiring me or hiring consultants and coaches, they're hiring you for more strategy, more tactics. But what they really need is this mindset tune-up, or there's this mindset alteration. Are you seeing that? And then let's talk a little bit about mindset.
Yeah, I'd say that everyone needs a mindset tune-up. We can all benefit from figuring out what's holding us back from realizing our true potential or getting beyond the roadblocks and challenges that we face. It's the reason why the top performers in any given industry, whether it's athletes or it's actors or it's those in the arts or business, they all work with coaches. They all have mentors. And that is really because they know that to get beyond where they are, they want to gain the insight and benefit and experience and expertise of those that have already been there and done that, or who have studied it and can add, a more direct path to seeing the result that they're after. So, yeah, I would certainly say that, we can all benefit from that if we want to achieve more than we currently are.
Well, let me ask you specifically about middle management, people who are rising up in the organization. A lot of listeners to this podcast are not sitting in the top chair just yet. They will be shortly, or they don't necessarily own their own company today, but they're striving towards that. And I hear what you're saying. Yes, actors, athletes, some of the top CEOs, they all reach out and get consultants or reach out and get coaching. But what about middle management? What about those who are rising, and how do they go about even finding a coach or finding a consultant to work with to help them reach the next level?
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, Jake. And what I would say is what I mentioned is anyone that wants to be a top performer. It doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's in the top of an organization right now. Every single person, regardless of their role or where they're working, can be a leader. There's a great book by Robin Sharma on this topic called The Leader with No Title, or some variation of that. And it makes a terrific point that really doesn't matter what your job is. I mean, you could be a janitor, you could be working in a hotel, helping people go up and down the elevator. Regardless of what your role is, you can be a leader. And the real question is, do you want to excel? Do you want to improve beyond where you are right now? And if you do, if you have that desire and that commitment to truly make it happen, then you can benefit from coaching or from finding ways to improve your current levels of performance.
And so where do we start? Let's say that we have this passion, we have this desire. Where do we start to find somebody that can take us to the next level?
Well, I mean, the best thing to do and what we practice ourselves in our business and have for many years is to look at, first identify what area do you want help with, and whether it's something personal or in the business world, what is it specifically that you're looking to improve? And then go out and find someone that has already been there and done that. So if you're looking for help, for example, to grow your consulting business, find someone that has been there and done that. If you're looking for help to, for example, get better, or get into shape, find someone that is already in shape and can help you there. You don't want to just go to like a generalist to get help. You want to go to someone that it has specific experience in the area that you're looking to improve. So that's always what I would recommend. Find someone that has been there and done that has faced and understands the challenges that you're currently facing, and then learn from them.
And how do we weed through those who are just not very skilled at what they're doing? Like you said, it's become easier and easier to be in business for yourself. There's a lot of people out there that just aren't qualified to really help you get to the next level. And you can lose a lot of money and a lot of time working with somebody who's giving you the wrong input. I don't want to have any of our listeners go through that experience. So how do we weed through those who are pretenders and go after those who are truly knowledgeable in their topic?
Yeah, I mean, number one, look at what have they actually accomplished. They should be very transparent, and there should be plenty of information about what that person has done. So that's a good starting point, right? Some people might say, oh yeah, I work with this type of business owner or this type of entrepreneur or this type of manager. Well, like, show me. I mean, who have you worked with, either specifically or tell me your story. Like, how did you get to where you are today? So you should see a clear path of where they've been and what they've actually accomplished. Look into results. Like, what have they achieved specifically? What kind of results have they been able to create? And then, are they an authority in their space? Have you had the opportunity to read a book that they've published, or to read several of their articles, or to watch videos that they've put together? Take the time to educate yourself, to become comfortable with the person who you are hoping to learn from. And as you start to do that, you'll start to feel more comfortable or less comfortable with those people. And when you find someone who you really believe can help you, and you've seen that they have been able to achieve results for others like you, then that's a really good indication. The one other thing that I would just add that a lot of people I find don't really consider, yet I've found to be really important, is to ensure there's also a good cultural fit. And I'm not talking about that you come from the same culture or same language or religion or any of that kind of stuff, but rather that the values that the person has that you're hoping to learn from reflect the values that you also have. Because oftentimes, and I've experienced this, where you work with someone and you're working with them because they've achieved results that you want to achieve or learn from them in that respect. But then when you go to work with them, your communication styles are very different, or the suggestions that they make just are not the kind of things that you feel comfortable doing. And so you need to make sure that there's a balance between learning from someone and being willing to do things differently than the way you've done them before, but also that you're going to have a good cultural fit in terms of the values and the communication style with them.
And I think you bring up some great points here, Michael. The transparency is so vital. We are big believers that if you can't be transparent, or if you refuse to be transparent, then you must be hiding something, or you must not have the requisite skills. We're all about transparency around here. And so when you start to investigate going into working with a coach, make sure that they can tell you what they've done. Make sure they're not hiding anything, and that they have some results. I also love this thing that you said about writing. It's tough to write a book. As you know, you've done it 5 times. It's a grind. And no matter how often you do it, it's still going to be hard work. And so when you look to people who have an expertise, have they written about it? And if they have written about it, what do they say? And how does it resonate with you on a cultural fit and a personal fit? Terrific, Michael. Let's jump into some of the chapters of this book then. And I want to talk you through a few of them because I think it'll be very helpful as we explore this topic even further. One of them is facing the uncomfortable. What do you say about facing the uncomfortable?
Well, we all face the uncomfortable. The question, and really what separates those who succeed from those that struggle, is whether you're willing to overcome what you're uncomfortable with. In most situations, the greatest breakthroughs and greatest growth comes from going beyond the waters of the known, right, and venturing into the unknown. Yet that is exactly what most people don't do, right? Most people come across or come up against a challenge. It's something that they haven't done before, or something they have some fear around. and then they find lots of reasons and excuses not to take that step. And so they never actually see the real breakthroughs or progress that they're hoping for.
And what's the difference between facing the uncomfortable? Like, I agree 100% with you. When you're trying to have a breakthrough, you're going to go through a period of uncomfortability. You're going to have to grind through it. And we talk a lot about that. But what's the difference between facing the uncomfortability and knowing in your gut, or you having this feeling in your gut that the path that you're on, the direction they're heading is just not a good fit for you, is not a right fit for you?
Well, sometimes the feeling that people have comes from a place because you're scared to do what you actually deep down know that you should be doing. And so you create all kinds of reasons not to do it, right? You create misbeliefs. So, you're really fooling yourself into thinking that you can't do something or that it's not the right path. But in fact, if you tried it, you might realize differently. And I'll give you an example of this. A lot of people who want to increase their fees face resistance around that. They're scared that the person, the prospective clients or existing clients might say no to their fees, and then they won't win that business. That comes from fear. Yet what I've seen and what I've observed from working with hundreds of consultants personally and in our own business as well is that the moment that you decide to increase your fees, as long as you know how to approach it and you know how to communicate value and identify value and look at the cost of inaction and all these other factors that come with pricing strategy, then the real question is, are you willing to ask for higher fees? And once you do, in most cases, you will receive higher fees. So it's one of these things that if you just felt like, well, I'm uncomfortable asking for higher fees, or I'm uncomfortable changing my structure, I'm just using hourly fees or daily rates, and I'm not yet prepared to go to a more efficient and effective model, you can create lots of reasons for why it's not going to work based on your industry or your past experience or what people have told you. But once you actually go about doing, once you have the knowledge of what you need to do, then the question is, are you willing to take the action required and come up against the fear or the uncomfortable nature of what you're looking at? But once you take that step, then there's no turning back, and you'll be so glad that you did.
And this goes back to how we started this conversation with mindset. You have to know what you're selling or know what you're asking your potential client to pay for and the value that you're sharing with them. So, Michael, as you're working with some of your clients and they come to you and they say, I'm not ready to increase my fees, or, on paper, I feel like I'm ready to increase my fees, but my mindset isn't right. How do you work with them to get their mindset such that they can raise their fees and feel comfortable and confident in what they're doing?
Tell me more about that. I mean, that's really the starting point, right? Like, you need to explore where this is coming from. And most often it's coming from beliefs that kind of past beliefs or past experiences. And just most often requires a conversation around the person's situation and why they're thinking the way they're thinking. And is that really, true in terms of what they are currently, taking in, like, and looking at their environment. They're often basing their experience off of just what's in their mind. But if you look at it from the perspective of what's actually happening and explore the opportunities, they're typically significant. So, mindset is all about understanding, first of all, why you're thinking the way that you're thinking, and then challenging yourself to explore the way that you're thinking from different angles. Most people are afraid to do things because you believe inside that if you take this action and it doesn't work out, it's going to be tragic. But if you really look at it, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? No one's going to die. Someone might say no to you. What does that mean? It's not personal, right? So if you explore and kind of start to chip away and then break down these barriers that you're surrounding yourself with, all of a sudden you can see above this wall that previously you couldn't. And now you start to find greater opportunities. And then when you actually test that and say, you know what, I'm kind of scared to do this, but wait a second, I just did it. And you know what, I feel a lot better about it. You're right. Thank you. Okay, now I can do it again. And people just start to grow from there.
And I think what you're talking about really resonated with me, and that is when somebody has an objection or somebody has a mindset where they're not quite ready and they need to have that shift in order to have the breakthrough. And one of the things as you talk and as you get it out and you ask the question, tell me more about that. So you can really uncover what is truly the fear, what truly is the objection. It's not often the actual price. People have a general sense of, the value of the service that they're sharing or proceeding with, but helping them identify the confidence within themselves to really ask for that. So this takes us to another question that I had, and that's working with a lot of our up and coming, our rising stars in organizations, our middle management folks that are listening. And sometimes they look at the leadership in their company or the leadership around them and they say, I don't have the experience. I don't have the background. I don't have the gray hairs in order to earn the respect of those around me. How do we work with them?
Well, first, again, I would want to explore where those beliefs are coming from, because I think if we all look around us, we can see plenty of examples of people who may not have the education that we have, or may not have the years of experience that we have, yet they're extremely more successful than we are, at least in the societal kind of context. So how can that be? So there's always ways to stand out. And if you're in an organization right now and you feel like you're not getting the attention or recognition that you deserve, then good to ask some questions. What could you do to stand out? What could you do to earn greater recognition? And that might be to take some initiative where you haven't taken it before. Can you start to write or create content or become a brand ambassador for your organization? Can you go above and beyond what others are willing to do to make an impact or to really create greater visibility for yourself? So I think it all starts with really looking at why are you thinking, like where are those beliefs coming from, and then what can you actually do? What could be the first step that could make you or help you or propel you to go in that direction where you ultimately know that you'll reach your goal? And another consideration for somebody might be is if you keep coming up against these things, is it worthwhile for you to consider going out on your own to really realizing your true potential where there's no one to hold you back except for yourself?
Well, how do we go? Let's say that we're starting to have those inklings within ourselves and our thoughts about going out on our own. Where do we start? Where do we find out if we really have what it takes to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question and a really good starting point. And we've worked with many consultants who have made this transition from corporate to a successful consultant. A great place to begin is to actually look at your existing company and your network. So even while you're still working a full-time job, you might just reach out to those around you and look at what could you do on the side. And as you start kind of dipping your toes in those waters and experiencing what it's actually like to run a business or to at least have some projects that are not part of your full-time work, that gives you a little taste of whether or not you're going to like it. Ultimately, you're not going to know 100% until you actually take that plunge and go for it. But if you're not in the position right now, financially, where you can just kind of quit what you're doing and go 100% into consulting or coaching or whatever it might be, then easing from full-time and taking on kind of some supplementary or side work is a really good starting point, because it allows you, number one, to get that experience in terms of what it's like. Number two, to actually build your experience in that area, which can create case studies and testimonials that you can then use and leverage in your marketing. But number three, it also starts to provide some revenue and income for you. And as that starts to increase, you can start to consider decreasing, or in some cases, what people do is wait until their revenue from consulting or coaching gets to a certain level. And once it does, then they feel much more comfortable in making that leap.
And we're big believers in like the blue ocean strategy of trying to go into areas and markets that are underserved, or that, if you follow the blue ocean strategy, the red ocean is where all the sharks are tearing everything apart. And, part of me is asking the question, is consultancy and consulting starting to turn into a red ocean where there's just so many sharks out there just going after it? I mean, your business, you've been doing it for a long time. Is there still opportunity for new entrants and growth, or is it becoming so competitive now that it should turn a lot of our listeners off of that consideration?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important question. And there's more opportunity now for people to become consultants and grow a consulting business than there ever has been before. Yes, there is more people, right? There is more competition. But that being said, there's still way more demand than there is supply. And even when there is a lot of supply in the market, there will always be those who are able to attract more demand, exponentially more than others. And so as long as you are very good at what you do, you can really provide value and results for the clients and those that you serve. And as long as you are willing to put in the work, the energy, the effort, and follow the right steps to grow your business and to market your business and to promote your services, then you can be very successful as a consultant.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, Michael, that if you're willing to lean in and gain the expertise needed to go out there and do it, and if you have the determination, the perseverance, the grit to go after it, there's still plenty of opportunity out there in coaching, in consulting. It's just a matter of being yourself and developing your message to a point, to a level where people will pay for it, where people will seek you out or will stumble upon you and really believe in their hearts and in their minds, if we talk about mindset, but really believe that you can take them to the next level through the expertise that you've gained through your experience. And so don't let the competition cause hesitation for you. If you believe that this is for you, do the research, find out more about it. Like Michael says, dip your toe in the water. You don't have to go all in and quit your job, but see what you can do on the side to gain some perspective and some experience in this and see if it's really something you want to do. Michael, I think with our time, we only have time to talk about one more chapter of this book, and it's one that I've been hoping that we had enough time to talk about, and that is chapter 6, Outreach Imperfected. And what is Outreach Imperfected, and how can it help us in our coaching and consulting careers?
Sure. So a lot of coaches and consultants, once they recognize the importance of doing marketing, right? I mean, as consultants and coaches, we're not in the coaching or consulting business. We're really all in the marketing business, because if we don't have clients to serve, then we can't do the coaching or consulting. And so marketing, even if you don't feel like you're a marketing or salesperson, understanding the importance of getting your message out there and becoming visible and gaining awareness is critical. So once you understand that, then the next step is now actually going out and doing it. The challenge, though, for a lot of people is, and especially for many consultants and coaches, is that they want everything to be just perfect. They want to have their website just right. They want to have their logo, beautifully polished. They want to have all of their materials, their presentations. Everything is kind of, needs to be perfected in their minds. And they spend a lot of time planning and thinking about how they're going to take over the world, essentially. But what all that does is actually it holds you back from getting out there, from doing the outreach, from focusing on having the conversations and building the relationships that are necessary to create a thriving practice. And so my belief and observation that I illustrate in that chapter through stories and examples is that you don't need to have perfect marketing or perfect materials to be successful. There are certain, foundational elements that are important, but far more than spending time on all of these materials and all this preparation, it's about getting out into the marketplace, because the marketplace is where you are going to learn the most. It's where you're going to get actual data as to what the market wants, what they like, what they dislike. Where the opportunities truly exist. And then when you capture that data, now you can go back and you can refine and you can optimize your own approach, your marketing materials, your messaging. But you could spend years trying to perfect all these different materials and presentations and website and so forth. But if you're not getting out into the market, it doesn't matter. So the faster that you get this out into the marketplace, and that's why I say, it's outreach imperfected, because it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's critical that you are doing outreach, that you're doing it consistently, and that you're capturing that data and knowledge and insights from that outreach, and then using it to continually improve your business.
And Michael, I think you're speaking directly to me. I've often been caught in the trap of ready, aim, 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 continually planning, preparing, perfecting to make it work. But the truth is, until you take that shot, until you fire, then you don't know where you need to configure your aim. You don't know if you need to make adjustments higher, lower, to the right, to the left. Until you start taking action, you won't know what adjustments need to be made. So even if you feel that your website's perfect and you're still working on getting your website perfect, you won't know for sure until you actually go out and take action. And so consultants, entrepreneurs, leaders, successful people go out, they take action, they do the things that need to be done. And they find that, as they're moving in that direction, they might have to make an adjustment, but that's okay. They at least have the momentum going and they're moving in that direction. Well, Michael, I appreciate the time that we've dropped into this book. I think it's a fantastic topic, and I love the chapters. I love the stories that you have in there, and I recommend that all of our listeners, especially if you're interested in going into the consulting field, to go and grab a copy of this book. Before we let you go, Michael, there's a section we like to do called Learning from Leaders. It's actually the personal side of this business conversation where we find out some of the things that you've been reading, some of the things that you believe, kind of your motivational mantras and such. Are you ready to jump into that section?
Sure, let's do it.
So the first question then is, currently, if you look over on your bedside table or your Kindle, what are you reading?
Oh, okay. So that's a good question because there's a lot right now that I've been reading. Jeb Blunt has some terrific work on sales. So I've been reading a couple of his books. There is a great book by Andrew Sorbel called Power Questions, all about asking questions at every stage of the consulting and kind of coaching process. So those are a couple of books that I'm reading right now.
And just listening to you, the power questions has obviously had an influence on your life. As I asked you questions, you responded back to me with, and why? Or let's go deeper, or why do you feel that way? And those power questions really lead to the core, what's going on, not just the surface, what we think or what we want to, because of our ego express to other people. And so love those recommendations. How about your leadership superpower?
Yeah, I've never really thought of that. For me, the big thing is being present. So when I'm speaking with clients and with people, I try and be as present as possible. I do a lot more listening typically than I do talking, and I find that has served me very well, both as a leader of multiple companies, but also just even with loved ones and those that I surround myself with. In this day and age, we're all so busy. We have so many distractions. But if you've ever been in a conversation with someone who really is present, who really is giving you their full attention, I know it's been powerful for me, and so I try and always implement and kind of follow that as well.
Yeah, and you connect on a higher level. You start to see the things that aren't being said or are being said, but not explicitly being said. And with that connection, you're able to take the conversation, the coaching, the relationship, all in a more positive direction. So I think that being present is such a tremendous leadership superpower. Thank you for sharing it. How about a leadership philosophy, quote, or mantra that you live by?
Imperfect action.
I love it. And that goes right back to the chapter in the book that we pulled out, right? I mean, it's at some point you got to take action. And the sooner you take action, the sooner you can adapt and adjust and create those changes that are going to propel you towards a breakthrough, towards success. How about finally, our last question, the book that you most often gift to your friends, family, or colleagues?
It's called Straight Line Leadership.
Tell us about it.
So the author is Dusan Djukic. It's a book that is less about the leadership of a team. It's much more about leadership of self. And he has just some very powerful chapters. It's a very easy to read book, very enjoyable. It's something that we actually put in the hands of all of our clients because I think we can all benefit from being more intentional, more proactive, more committed. And that's really what this book is all about.
Well, wonderful. I've got it now on my wish list as far as to pick up a copy and really dive into it. Every time I have a guest that talks about a book they give to all of their clients, I go, this must be worthwhile. So I'm going to pick up a copy. Michael, we sure appreciated having you on the show. Before we let you go, any last bit of advice and how can we find out more about you and the coaching that you're doing?
Sure. So, I mean, there's plenty of advice and ideas for anyone that is interested in becoming a consultant or taking their consulting business to the next level. We have lots of resources, both free and paid, over at consultingsuccess.com. We have a 52-page guide on how to become a successful consultant. That's right, kind of front and center there on the site. And then as you've been kind of referencing my most recent book, The Elite Consulting Mind, you can find that on Amazon.
Wonderful. And we're going to link all of this up on the show notes. I've already gone over to Amazon and picked up a copy. I've been to your website. You got some great stuff. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes out of your day to share with the Modern Leadership audience.
Jacob, been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right, my friends, what did you think of that? Sure enjoyed having Michael on the podcast, as I do all of our guests, but particularly this topic really resonated with me. I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of consulting in my work, mostly with lawyers and owners of law firms. And it's fascinating to really dive into the expertise, the art of being a coach. And I really loved pulling out this topic of asking questions. You could just tell through talking with Michael, he's a listener. He likes to listen and really figure out the true nature of the problem before responding with an answer. And I think we could all learn a lot from that we don't need to be so eager to respond with what we think the answer should be, but really identifying what the person that we're talking to, the person coming to us for advice, what they really want, what will really take them to the next level, and how we can benefit them, and then responding with an answer that shows our expertise, but also shows them that we cared enough to pay attention. The other thing that I pulled out that I thought was just fascinating, something that I hadn't really thought of before, is consultants are really in the marketing business. And truly, I think that is almost all of us. All the businesses that we have is really about how we get more people in the doors. And you may have an expertise as a lawyer or as a banker or as a real estate agent or whatever your business may be. But truly, when we boil it all down, we're really in the business of marketing. We're really into getting people to know the value that we have, that we can share with them, and helping them to see how engaging with us, buying our product, buying our service, investing with us, whatever it may be, can help take them to the next level, how it will be of value to their life. And that really comes down to being in the marketing business. And so think about that this week as you go through all the activities that you do within your business. How are you marketing to new clients, to new customers, to new friends? How are you spreading your message and your expertise? Of course, everything that we talked about on this episode of the podcast can be found on the show notes over at jakeacarlson.com/ML82 for episode 82. And until next week, I want to wish you the very best of days, an even better life, and of course, stay awesome. Thanks for listening to the Modern Leadership Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at Speaker Jake, on Twitter at Jake A. Carlson, and of course the website, jakeacarlson.com. See you there.